So, welcome, Donna. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Susan, and thank you. Happy New Year again. I'm Donna Potts-McKenzie. I have been an HR leader for a number of years. I hate to admit how many. I actually have a lot in my portfolio besides HR. I do consulting currently. I work with executives, uh, transformation, coaching, a variety of things, a strategy around helping set up people practices within organizations as well too. It's a privilege to be with Susan on this fireside chat, which is my first. So I'm really excited to journey this with Susan today. So thank you again, Susan.
Thank you, Donna. Yeah, no, it's been really great working with you over the last year. So I guess what I'm curious about is if you've observed any opportunities where you've seen AI and coaching coming together in a coaching experience in a way that you've seen it as being a meaningful moment.
Mhm. Recognizing, utilizing tools like in employee surveys, in which, in my experience, you've done a lot of manual work in taking the data that's extracted from engagement in employee surveys to translating them into summaries that then you coach leaders on. I'm seeing the evolution of how the AI technology now can help you um, get to the summary quicker, but step in as a human being to do the coaching, to really focus around, the key aspects that are meaningful to the person you're coaching with.
Mm.
And I see lots of opportunities in doing that in a more meaningful and value-added way with organizations and leaders, especially executives going forward.
Mm. And how are you finding? I know that the space that you've just described, employee experiences, and then leaders interpreting that. With AI, how are you finding organizations adopt and use AI now?
I think it's all over the place, to be quite frank. I would like to see the HR leadership be engaged in a different way, helping to drive an organization, the C-suite in particular, to really say we need to look at the work processes. We need to see the impact of those processes before we start talking about a platform, a tool. And I find in many of the workshops that I've participated in, a lot of the focus has been on the tools versus, the consistency, the removal of biases, the scalability, et cetera, taking, what used to be succession planning just at the top and scale it through the organization. But I would like to see more discussion around the processes. Let's start there. Let's see what we can eliminate and then talk about re-engineering meaningful work activity that then allows, some of the employees to elevate the level of work once you skill them to do a higher level of work.
Mm-hmm. I like the fact you talked about discussion there because in effect the reason I wanted to do these fireside chat is to start opening up dialogue so that we can have meaningful engagement around AI to sort of get away from the fear that people have had about it in the past and just move on to something more practical.
Yes, I totally agree. And fear is key here because I feel that in our environment out in the world today, the messaging is making people fearful of trying something new. And that's not uncommon, right? When technology has been introduced, and I've had the good fortune of working in technology over my entire career. So I could be a little bit of a unicorn as an HR person that I'm not afraid of trying new things around technology. I actually had a great conversation yesterday with a former CTO that I supported and talked about AI and what I'm doing to upskill myself. And he was really excited that I'm doing that. But we have to get over the fear, right?
Mm,
And I try to message that as often as I can when I'm just out there in my personal world and asking people, what are you doing with AI? And they look a little bit surprised, right? But I think it's important to be an ambassador around. You have to get in the pool,
mm,
right? Otherwise, you will get left behind.
mm. And I guess for coaches is to lean on that strength that we have or that unique part about us that is around curiosity, is use that
Mm,
curiosity. Yeah, exactly.
yes.
And actually sticking with the kind of curiosity theme. So as we experiment and learn with AI in the context of coaching or the profession, what principles could we use or apply to keep AI human-centered, ethical, and inclusive?
I think it's important to inform clients when it's being used,
Hmm.
right? The transparency of that allows people to opt in or opt out.
Mm,
I think that's so important. And I find just in, my day to day with vendors that I'm contacting for a service, for example, they let you know on the front end that we are using AI. And I think that's very important to help start creating guardrails around principles, around it being ethical, and then inclusive. Because if I'm not ready yet, and you give me the option, I can say, I'm not ready, I'm opting out. Or I'm going to be very excited that you're an organization that is utilizing it and I want to be included.
mm,
So I think the communication piece is very key.
mm. Thank you for that. And
Mhm.
I guess if you could imagine one shift that would positively shape the next chapter of coaching, what would it be?
Hmm. I think a message that I hear in the circles that I'm in is that yes, organizations have deployed AI, but they've not done any training, right? And so here it is without its guardrails and guidelines necessarily, but you haven't trained me on how to best utilize it in the organization. And I think some of that can be teach me about the platform. Maybe there are peer groups, so engineering groups, there are marketing groups, there are, you name the group within an organization. So we are able to learn together, right? How to utilize it, add value in the organization, what can we do, maybe what we can't do, things like that. Um, you know, um, what would I say? The feedback loop can be quicker,
Mm,
right? Because sometimes it could take you from coaching sessions the way we used to do it without a tool like AI. It could take you a lot of time to summarize, formulate the opinion, whereas the tool can help guide that based on information that's extracted from a coaching session,
mm,
right? So it can be more real time. I think we'll look for the agents to help it become a continual process. It's not just a one-time process, right?
mm.
We're able to, and it can be self-directed, it can be, I think, coach-directed human aspect, right? Along the way. I think these are the things that we will continue to see evolve.
Mm. I've heard organizations talk about creating AI circles to do exactly that, to get people to co-create or experiment with AI together, maybe once a week, maybe once a day for a very short pulse session in the morning. But at least it's that habit, isn't it? Bringing it
Yes.
into the workplace on a regular basis.
Mhm.
Rhythms and rituals is what I call it. But yeah.
There you go, right? Exactly. And the rituals are what people are often comfortable with, right? I know what to expect some, right? And so that's the ritual piece there.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so we have to find those, I think, opportunities that help people get over some of the barriers that are in front of them that they may be aware of or not aware of, right? And maybe the ritual, so to speak, can help with that.
Actually, as we've just discussed, Rachel, one of the other things that you and I talk about often is tribe. And so in this space, we've talked before about how do you find your trusted sources as we go through this, navigate the change with AI. Who are the trusted people that you have in your tribe? and the AI circle might be that in some organizations. And where are the trusted sources? So where is your trusted source for news? Where can you vet and verify the information that you're getting? So is there anything you might want to share on that?
Well, I think that's where the human aspect will remain, Susan, right? Like the tool can assess or provide summaries around, from the data of common themes, let's say. But it's the human aspect, the conversation, just being vulnerable in conversation in what you inquire as to a comfort level around themes. Are you hitting on, does this seem right or does this seem off, sort of thing? Right? That's a discussion. AI can't do that. And I say with the caveat, yet. Right? But this is how you develop that tribe, that trust. If I'm in community, right? We talk
Mm-hmm.
about community as well too. That gets us to where we need to be
Mm-hmm.
and it allows the human aspect to remain intact. We have to learn a lot and how to better utilize the tools, but when we do, right, it's such a value add to the full picture here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if we kind of zoom out a little bit and look on the horizon, what changes about coaching and what stays the same?
I think the tools are so rapidly being developed, right? And so the models, we see them already. They change so quickly. What was relevant yesterday, it's no longer relevant today. So how it's delivered, how coaching is delivered, right? When agents came into play, that was a whole different delivery system, right? A different model. That will change, right? I think the technology will allow the coaching to become more personalized,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the Okay, humans are very much needed now, but are there components that can be developed into a platform to make it more personalized, still not exclusive of a human interaction? But there are components that still can be delivered utilizing the technology. I think that changes. We know predictive insights are important. That's been the whole playing field and roadmap around this, right? That we keep seeing evolve. But yeah, I think those will change the experience that one has, and as people become more familiar with utilizing the tools, they'll help create the what next as well too.
Mm. Well, and even create new opportunities, as you've
Mhm.
described it. It's going to help us evolve and find differentiated ways to serve people in different ways across all of the kind of domains or areas that we operate. Well, I hope coaching operates everywhere, you know.
Mhm. And then I uncovered something when I was kind of preparing for this that I hadn't thought about is the virtual reality.
Mm,
How it can be used, how AI can be used in virtual reality and coaching, right, to simulate a live session, right? And I was like, oh wow, sometimes I scare myself when I uncover these things because working in tech, I remember when VR became a thing, right? And we see that generationally virtual reality is used. And what if that becomes the way for generations behind us, right? And how this continues to evolve.
mm. Well, and with VR and AR, I when I was in Berlin, I was able to play with a AI tool in this space that enables you to inhabit somebody else. So, a male leader could inhabit a female avatar and experience how people interact with that, and it helps, I guess, create some empathy for other.
There you go, right? And that's empathy is such a key component around this because again, it draws to the human aspect, right,
Mm,
Susan?
mm,
And today, AI cannot, or it hasn't been released yet, on how it would interpret or internalize a tool. I'll use that word for a
mm,
tool, internalize empathy. That's something that the human aspect, that component is so critical to the success of this overall transition to how we coach in whatever industry or right. The empathy is what's key,
Mm,
right? And we know that employees want to see empathy from their leadership,
mm,
right? And so we can get to a certain point with technology, but the empathy is it's a critical ingredient.
mm. And as we start to close up the fireside chat, Donna, is there anything else that you would like to share with us?
Well, as you know, Susan, you keep me on this journey. It's really exciting. It keeps me intellectually challenged, so I'm eager to learn. There's so much. Again, yesterday's learnings are like almost passé, right? Because there's so much more being introduced today. I look forward to how as a coach myself, how I continue, what platforms might I use in the spaces in which, I coach, right? And accessing and having to or being able to try new tools. I mean, you helped me with that a lot. And so I look forward to exploring those new platforms going forward and seeing how they complement the spaces that I'm in as a human who does coaching, right? And looking for opportunities to introduce those things, right? And see how they're being used in organizations, if they are being used, or has it not even become a thought,
Mm,
you know? And then I'm eager to just really have these conversations with other HR professionals around the future of work and how we get seated at the table with the right players in the C-suite, understanding the business objectives and the focus that's needed using the technology, how we upskill organizations to meet the needs of the business, utilizing this technology that evolves so quickly.
mm,
That's what I'm looking forward to going forward. It's a lot,
mm.
but it's
I
exciting.
Well, and I love the fact you call out the HR space and being part of that C-suite because, as you say, the AI is transforming what's possible within the organization, but it's the people capital or the how do we augment and elevate them so that they can really realize the full potential of the organization, the purpose of the organization.
Right, exactly. And we've been walking down this path for quite some time now. It's exciting to see how it's coming together and knowing that there is so much more in this roadmap that is yet to be defined and created, right?
Mm, brilliant. Well, Donna, thank you so much for spending your time and your insights with us today. We've really appreciated that.
Thank you for having me, Susan.